What's up, Guardians? Profane here. Thanks for checking out the video. We're back at it again today with another Arc Warlock build. This build is outlandishly fun to use and incredibly strong, and it features one of my favorite Warlock exotics, the Necrotic Grip. Now, the Necrotic Grip comes with the intrinsic perk called Grasp of the Devourer. Damaging combatants poisons them, dealing increasing damage over time. Defeating a poisoned combatant spreads the condition. It also provides a moderate benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat of all weapons of sorrow. This includes the Osteostriga, the Thorn, and the newly released Touch of Malice. Before we dive any further into this build, if you do end up enjoying today's video and finding it helpful, then please be sure to help support the channel below by hitting that like button along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated. While Necrotic Grip is equipped, all melees dealt applies poison damage to your enemy. It reaches a total of 680% the total damage amount of your melee damage. All melees count for this as well, charged or uncharged. When it comes to PvP, you actually get a reduction in that overall damage. It's just 30%. Now, bosses will take an additional 80% of damage. Now, initial poison ticks will deal 18% of melee damage, while the last tick deals 54% damage. Each successive poison tick deals 9% more damage, which lasts for a total of 19 ticks. Poisoned enemies spread the poison on death up to a 3-meter radius, and this applies even if the source of the poison wasn't a melee attack. Historically, the Necrotic Grips have been featured in Void and Solar builds, but you'll be surprised at how well Arc 3.0 can synergize with the Necrotic Grips. And it starts with the new Arc 3.0 aspects and fragments. Starting off, we have Electrostatic Mind, defeating targets with arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets creates an ionic trace. Collecting an ionic trace makes you amplified. While amplified, your movement speed and weapon handling are greatly increased. After sprinting for a short time, your movement speed is further increased. We're also using Lightning Surge. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to blink forward, calling down lightning strikes that jolt targets as you rematerialize. This is one of my favorite new features about Arc 3.0, the ability for Warlocks to have their own shoulder charge. It's a wonder to watch, and it's surprisingly strong. And when you pair it up with the Arc melee of Chain Lightning, you get extended range melee that jolts your targets and chains lightning to nearby enemies. Now, while amplified, it creates an additional set of chains. This is really crucial because it's really going to make your shoulder charge that much more powerful. And since we're using the Necrotic Grips, every time we use a shoulder charge or use our Arc Chain Lightning, it's going to apply the Necrotic Poison. As far as fragments that are really going to work well with this build, we're using Spark of Frequency. Melee hits greatly increase your reload speed for a short duration. We're also using Spark of Resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. You also get a 10-point boost in your strength with this. Spark of Feedback provides a similar benefit to that of the AC/DC feedback for the Titans. Taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage, with a 10-point boost to resilience to bat. And then lastly, we're using Spark of Recharge. While critically wounded, your melee and grenade energy regenerates more quickly. So between these 4 fragments, we've successfully improved our reload speed for our weapons, we've increased our melee regeneration, we've increased our melee damage, we've provided more strength and more resilience to our build. And we're also going to be using Healing Rift along with Burst Glide. As far as grenades go, it's really dealer's choice. I prefer the Flux Grenade, but in all honesty, all of the Arc grenades are fairly strong. If you do decide to go with a grenade that provides a lingering effect like Storm Grenade, Pulse Grenade, or Lightning Grenade, then you might want to consider using the complementary fragment called Spark of Magnitude, where your lingering Arc grenades have extended duration. But ultimately, since this is a Necrotic Grip build, we're focusing more towards melee than we are on grenade. Which brings us to the mods that we're using with this build. And our first key component is Heavy-Handed. While charged with light, regain half of your melee energy when you use a charged melee ability, consuming 1 stack of Charged with Light. Additionally, while surrounded by multiple combatants, defeating a combatant with a fusion rifle, shotgun, sidearm, or submachine gun adds ammo for that weapon to your reserves. Now, along with heavy-handed, we're going to be applying Outreach, which is an ARC class item mod, reduces melee cooldown when using your class ability. Since heavy-handed requires us to be charged with light, it's going to be important for us to stay charged with light as much as possible. And with that being said, we're going to use Elemental Charge along with Melee Wellmaker. This way, all of our melee attacks are going to provide us with melee wells. Now, to go along with that, we're going to be using the Supercharged Solar mod. This one provides 2 additional stacks of Charged with Light, up to a maximum of 5. This is going to do wonders at keeping us charged with light, which is going to be able to trigger heavy-handed, which is going to be able to apply more melee energy, so we get our charged melee attack with the Necrotic Grip. And to further amplify those benefits, there are 2 really good ARC mods that you could use. The first is Well of Striking. Picking up an ARC Elemental Well grants you additional melee energy. Multiple copies of this mod increase its effects. And the other mod, Well of Ions. Picking up an ARC Elemental Well causes your next melee to deal increased damage, which really works out perfectly because you're already getting a boost to your damage because of the Necrotic Grips. We're also using the ARC mod called Momentum Transfer. Causing damage with a grenade reduces your melee cooldown. To go even further into the regeneration of our melee ability, we're using Outreach. Reduces melee cooldown when using your class ability. And then finally, on our boots, we're going to be using Innervation, which reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb, and Reciprocation, replenishes health each time you pick up an orb. And once you've put it all together, you've created what I've come to call the Toxic Shock Warlock build. An absolutely destructive build featuring one of the best Warlock exotics in the game, the Necrotic Grip. So before you give up and dismiss ARC 3.0 as a viable subclass, try putting on the Necrotic Grip and go raise some hell. And with that being said, that's going to wrap things up for today's video. Let me know your thoughts on this Toxic Shock Warlock build in the comments below. I wish you all the best and luck throughout this season. Let me know in the comments what your favorite thing about this season so far is. Thank you again for checking out today's video. If you've enjoyed it and found it helpful, then please be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. If you're in need of any help throughout this season with the new raid or any of the new content, be sure to check out the Discord link in the description below and join one of the greatest communities in all of Destiny. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.